Donald Trump and his DOJ just got eviscerated in a court filing regarding his ballroom. Donald Trump previously filed a motion. It seems like he posted his own social media post and made it into a motion before the federal judge where there was like lie after lie. It was a shocking motion that we covered where Donald Trump said right after the alleged incident at the White House Correspondents' Dinner that this proves why we need the judge to allow the ballroom to take place and overrule your prior ruling that the ballroom needs to be put on pause because it violates the Constitution. And so the National Historic Trust that brought this lawsuit to block the ballroom, they write in their motion, look, all of this, like what we're seeing in this bizarre motion, I'll show you the motion in a second. This all may be some standard fare when it comes to a social media post, but in a federal court filing, it is neither appropriate nor is it permitted. They go on to talk about how the defendants, Donald Trump and his regime, claim that the National Trust, the plaintiff, was asked by the United States military not to bring the suit in the first place because of the top secret nature of the important facility being built. The National Historic Trust says this statement is not only false, the military did not request that the National Trust not file this suit, but the allegation is patently absurd. And this is a federal court. You just can't make up things. Then you have the plaintiffs uncorking this overall argument that emergency action needs to be taken by the federal judge. And here's what they say in the motion. Defendant Trump ignores the reality that to date, construction has continued unabated. Work at the East Wing site has not been paused for even a single minute because the injunction has not yet gone into effect. But the defendants claim the events at the White House Correspondents' Dinner show this lawsuit must be dismissed immediately because it now endangers the lives of all presidents, current and future. This statement is not only utterly professional, it is reckless. Also, the plaintiff, the National Trust Historic Group, says that the Trump administration keeps mischaracterizing the standing argument of plaintiff as, quote, some woman walking her dog in the vicinity of the White House. The plaintiff said this statement is false. They go on to say the defendants claim that standing is based on a woman walking her dog in the vicinity of the White House. This statement is false. Declaration of National Trust board member who is the former senior historian of the Historic American Building Survey of the National Park Service. And it goes on to say, this isn't like, that's just not like, there's like literally nothing true about it. I mean, there's no aspect of it. No, just to remind you the type of slop that the Trump regime filed. This was what it almost appeared that after the alleged incident at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, that like Donald Trump wrote the motion himself. And they refer to it as an indicative ruling dissolving the court's injunction under Rule 62.1. But as the plaintiffs pointed out, the injunction hasn't gone into effect yet. The judge made the ruling that the ballroom needs to be blocked, but the judge gave additional time for appeals to be taken. But this is what Trump put in the motion. The National Trust for Historic Preservation is a beautiful name, but even their name is fake. And that's in caps because when they add the words in the United States to the National Trust for Historic Preservation, it sounds like a government agency, which it's not. In fact, the United States has refused to continue funding it since 2005. They're very bad for our country. They stop many projects that are worthy and hurt many others. In this case, they're trying to stop one that's vital to our national security and the safety of all presidents of the United States, both current and future, their family, staff, and cabinet members. They were asked by the United States military not to bring this suit because of the top secret nature of the important facility being built. They were shown detailed plans and specification of this knitted, unified, and cohesive structure by top officers and leaders in both the military and the Secret Service. But this did not stop them because they suffer from a disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, commonly referred to as TDS. as noted by Democrat Senator John Fetterman and represented by and Barack Hussein Obama lawyer Gregory Craig. The lower section of the building does not work without the upper section, and likewise, the upper section of the building does not work without the lower section. You get the point, and I go on to continue to read it. Now, our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, says the following, and Ron Filipkowski is a former federal prosecutor. He goes, "There was a time when the DOJ making several blatant and obvious lies in a big court case would be a very big and serious matter. But nothing ever happens to these people other than very stern warnings and strongly worded orders. The Trump mafia exposed the weakness of our judiciary." Let me bring in Harry Litman from the Talking Feds YouTube channel, Talking Feds podcast, and Talking Feds Substack. There's different layers, Harry, that I think we need to address here. First, the underlying filing by the Historic Trust, pointing out that these aren't just lies in a court document before a federal judge. These are lies that are so outside the universe of reality that, Harry, this would be 5150 vexatious litigant stuff, that the military spoke to them before and said, do not file this. Like, this didn't happen. You're putting your name on false documents before a federal judge. In a normal course, Harry, when I was practicing, if I wrote something like this, if you wrote something like this and it was false, we would lose our bar license. The judge would immediately refer us to the bar, or they would do an order to show cause, and we would have to show up and we would have to beg the judge for leniency, and we probably wouldn't get it. So first, let's talk about getting called out by the Historic Trust. But then the point that our editor-in-chief raises, I want you to address, because it is like, enough is enough. Stop it. I mean, there were lawyers who put their names to this document, and these are patent lies. This is a federal court. You know, if the court means something, step up and sanction these people. Take away their bar license. Refer them to the bar. You can't lie in federal documents like this, Harry.
Ben, we've seen some really crazy submissions from this Department of Justice. This filing leaves them all in the dust. It's the single craziest, most unprofessional filing I've ever seen. Certainly have ever seen from the Department of Justice. You gave some of the highlights, but just to give the Meidas Mighty and Fed heads a bigger flavor, the entire brief starts with a 2-page paragraph that it's as if you took every crazy speech from Trump, dumped it all into some AI chat GPT and said, produce some parody of everything he's ever said, complete with the capital letters. So look, I do not want to diminish the lies, but we've seen lies from them before. What really, it's the surface of the brief that right away would have made the court just be completely appalled. It shows how totally hands-on. I mean, honestly, I can't think of a hypothesis other than Trump just spewing it out and some poor Slav having to write it down and put it before the federal court and someone else having to sign it. It's just, a complete craze screed, like someone, a crazy person jumping up on a bus or something. And that's in addition to, as you say, are all the lies. So I think Trump, this is such a vanity project for him that he did just go back and say, here's what we should say. And this is really micromanagement, right? And I got to imagine any professional, I mean, even any pro-Trump loyalist, but who has ever practiced in court would say, oh shit, what do we do with this? This is what the boss wants. And I think they basically have decided here, this is before Judge Leon, any court that received this would completely write off that side in this case. It is that far beyond the pale. And all I can imagine that they, is that it's hard to push back when Trump is at his most crazy and insistent, but they also calculate, we're not going to get anywhere with Leon anyway. He's going to rule against us. This will be some kind of PR document and it will appease the boss. And we just have to pray that the future courts, like the DC Circuit, don't even see this because, or don't take notice of it, because it is just deeply tawdry and offensive, like completely friggin' nuts. Okay, now then the National Trust comes in, and let's go to Ron's point. They make a fairly measured response. No, that's a lie. No, this is a lie, etc. It's always a kind of a question that when you're a DOJ lawyer, for example, and you are litigating against a crazed person on the other side. Do you play it lower key? You can't try to match the rhetoric, but you're really right. This is, it's just gone on, and it's also courts across the country. Any individual court just deals with what's in front of them, and there's really no court to say, he did this in Minnesota, and that in DC, and this in Florida, and enough is enough. And you sign this, we're going to hold you up for discipline. Really, the first move instinctively of a federal judge here is to get real tough, as Ron says, and I'm not joking. And it just is zero. There is no effect that it has on the Department of Justice. They've made this deep decision not to care about courts and things. Little criticisms that would have completely raced through the building and done a sort of change of conduct in the DOJ before. Now, I think they just provoke a kind of ha ha ha. No department that permits this to be filed could be caring even that much about the courts.
I always say this, not a Democrat, Republican, or independent issue. When you read, it's why we read the motions here. I don't characterize them. I read them because I want people to see what's actually said in these things. And it should deeply disturb anyone, regardless of political affiliations, that type of filth, that content that looks like it was, written by someone who was trying to intentionally provoke the teacher into suspending them in high school so that they could get back at their parents or what, I don't even know how to, whatever it is, it's intentionally done in a way that lowers the bar of intelligence to such a level that is shameful. It's a shameful document to be filed in court, Harry. And what a shame. Let's get the final word.
They are shameless. Look, I court at the Supreme Court. They get 10,000 petitions a year. Half of them, fully half, are from prisoners just writing on their own, saying things like, the 16th Amendment is unconstitutional, or really crazy stuff. I can't recall a single filing when you think about the combination of, the terrible prose, but the cheekiness and the nastiness, and yes, the lies. You really, as a court, don't know whether to just treat it as a joke, but how can you? It's the Department of Justice, and, it has to make their heads spin. But I just want to go back to the point that they have to know, anybody at the Department of Justice, Blanche, Sauer, the SG, has to know that this would appall any judge on any side. Are you friggin' kidding me? And that they let this happen really is a show that, especially where the ballroom is concerned, there's just no limit to Trump's control over this ultimate vanity project. That this piece of crap could go to a federal court is mind-boggling.
Everybody, make sure you subscribe to Harry Litman's YouTube channel. It's called Talking Feds. Just search Talking Feds now on YouTube. After you ensure that you're subscribed to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel, head over to Harry's Talking Feds. He's got a Substack and a podcast as well, also called Talking Feds. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you, Ben.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.